When that theme song played, "Come and Knock on Our Door," nobody imagined what was really waiting behind it. Money tore friendships apart. One star was literally erased from the screen, and ABC tried, twice, to bury the show that made them rich. It's the side of Three's company that was never meant to be seen, or we can call it 10 weird facts they tried to hide. Fact 1. Suzanne Somers' secret isolation. At the height of her fame, Suzanne Somers arrived at the studio one morning and realized something had changed. Her name was gone from her dressing room door, and when she asked where her co-stars were, a security guard said quietly, "They've already finished for the day." That was how ABC handled a woman who demanded equal pay. By 1980, Somers was pulling in the same ratings as John Ritter, but earning less than a third of his salary. She asked for $150,000 per episode, the same as Ritter, and a small share of the profits. The request triggered chaos. Network executives branded her difficult. Show creator Mickey Ross called her a virus. And before the next taping, producers made sure she would never share another scene with her cast again. Each week, 2 separate scripts were printed. One full version, and a second marked in red, where Chrissy Snow's lines were replaced by short phone calls from Fresno. Somers filmed these alone in a locked studio room no bigger than a closet. Then she'd be escorted off the lot through a side exit so no one could talk to her. By the time the season ended, Somers' screen time had been cut to 60 seconds per episode. ABC finally fired her in March 1981 by telegram. Her contract was voided, her dressing room furniture sold off, and her phone on the lot disconnected that same afternoon. Years later, she admitted she drove home in tears and sat in her car for an hour, realizing Hollywood had just blacklisted her. "They erased me while I was still breathing," she said. Fact 2. 32 years of frozen friendship. Every sitcom has tension, but Three's Company carried one of television's most silent wars. Suzanne Somers and Joyce DeWitt once shared late-night meals, inside jokes, and hours of rehearsal together. Then, almost overnight, their friendship froze, and stayed that way for 32 years. The split began during the 5th season, when Somers' contract negotiations turned public. DeWitt felt blindsided. She had been the one defending Somers in press interviews, calling her the heart of the show. But when Somers skipped a table read to meet her lawyer, DeWitt saw it as betrayal. "I thought we were fighting for the same show," she later said. And suddenly, she was fighting for herself. From that moment, the tension thickened. Crew members whispered that DeWitt refused to stand next to Somers during curtain calls. Stage managers began rehearsing their entrances separately. When Somers was fired, DeWitt didn't send a message or a flower. Publicly, she stayed calm. Privately, she vented to friends that Suzanne had broken the family. Then came 2012. Somers, now a talk show host, invited DeWitt to appear live. The producers expected polite smiles at best. Instead, the moment DeWitt walked on stage, both women burst into tears. Somers whispered, "I'm sorry I hurt you." DeWitt's voice cracked when she replied, "We were kids. We didn't know what power meant." For the first time, both admitted what the network had done, playing them against each other to divide the cast. Fact 3. John Ritter's collapse. Studio audiences came expecting laughter, but one taping of Three's Company nearly turned into a tragedy. It was Season 3, Episode 12, the one where Jack tries to impress a date with a wild kitchen stunt. Ritter insisted on doing his own physical comedy, as usual. The scene called for him to leap over a couch, spin, and land with a tray of drinks. He missed the timing by half a second. His head hit the edge of a coffee table with a thud so loud it echoed through Stage 25 at ABC Television Center. The cameras kept rolling for 5 seconds before a stagehand yelled, "Cut! He's not moving!" Ritter was bleeding from the scalp. Crew members rushed in, but he waved them off, slurring, "Let's finish the take." The medic refused. He'd suffered a mild concussion and bruised vertebrae, yet he showed up to rehearsal the next morning with an ice pack strapped under his shirt. This wasn't only one acting scene. During filming of Up in the Air, Season 6, Ritter slipped on a staircase while doing a pratfall and tore a ligament in his knee. Another time, he fainted from exhaustion after working 18-hour days and reshooting scenes to improve the pacing. He believed that every stumble was a heartbeat of the show. "If Jack doesn't get hurt," he told his stunt coordinator, "it's not funny." Decades later, co-star Richard Klein revealed that Ritter's body was a collection of injuries held together by tape. By 2003, he was still performing with the same intensity when he collapsed on the set of 8 Simple Rules. Doctors discovered an aortic dissection, an unseen tear in his heart's lining. He died doing what he loved most. Fact 4. The mystery of Lana Shields. Anne Wedgeworth walked into Three's company in 1979 with a grin and a contract that promised a breakout role. Her character, Lana Shields, was written as bold, flirtatious, and dangerously confident. She stole her first scene so completely that the audience applauded mid-dialogue. But within 9 episodes, Lana vanished from television like a ghost. Behind the curtain, the story was brutal. Wedgeworth was told she'd become too strong for the format. In plain terms, executives feared she was outshining the leads. John Ritter himself complained that the constant flirtation scenes made Jack look inconsistent. The character was meant to be irresistible, but Ritter worried audiences would question why Jack kept rejecting her. Wedgeworth pushed back. She asked the writers to evolve Lana, make her more complex, less cartoonish. The writers ignored her. When she went to producers, they told her the direction was already locked. 2 weeks later, her call sheet disappeared from the board. Her firing wasn't even done face-to-face. A wardrobe assistant delivered the news, saying quietly, "You're not needed on set today." The silence afterward was chilling. A BC received letters from fans asking where Lana went. Thousands of them. The network issued no statement. The studio buried the story under new casting announcements. Years later, Wedgeworth revealed she felt humiliated. "They didn't even write me a goodbye line," she said. "I just ceased to exist." Her disappearance remains one of television's strangest vanishing acts because an actress was erased mid-sentence in a show built on misunderstandings. Fact 5. The British Blueprint. America tried to bury. Before Jack, Janet, and Chrissy ever existed, there was Robin, Chrissy, and Joe. Man About the House aired on ITV in 1973, and it was cheeky, progressive, and distinctly British. But here's the twist most American fans never heard. When ABC bought the rights, the executives wanted everyone to forget it ever existed. During negotiations, the original creators, Johnny Mortimer and Brian Cook, asked for credit and royalties on the U.S. version. BC executives agreed on paper, then quietly buried their names in fine print so deep it didn't appear on early American promos. Publicly, ABC sold Three's Company as an original American concept. It wasn't. It was a remake designed to push boundaries American TV still feared touching. The British show had a sharper edge. Robin was openly heterosexual, and his pretend gay act was purely comedic satire about class and social manners. BC's censors panicked. They demanded the American Jack Tripper show moral consequence. That's why, in the pilot, the landlord threatens to evict them for living in sin, forcing Jack to fake being gay. It was ABC's loophole to make the show morally acceptable under 1970s broadcast standards. Here's what's even wilder. Richard O'Sullivan, who played Robin in the original, was invited to cameo in the American version. But the deal fell apart when his agents accused ABC of plagiarism and unpaid royalties. British journalists later called Three's Company the show that stole without winking. The network ignored it all. By 1978, the British creators finally won arbitration and began receiving residuals. But ABC never made the story public. So the American audience kept laughing, never realizing the show that defined U.S. sitcom comedy had been imported, sanitized, and quietly stripped of its true creators' names. Fact 6. Don Knotts' secret fear behind the smile. Don Knotts was already a legend when he joined Three's Company in Season 4. 5 Emmys. Decades of fame as Barney Fife. Everyone expected him to stride in with confidence. Instead, he arrived at the studio trembling so badly that his makeup artist had to steady his hands. He hadn't performed in front of a live audience in 15 years. His previous shows, The Andy Griffith Show, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, The Reluctant Astronaut, were all single-camera projects. The multi-camera chaos of Three's Company terrified him. He admitted later that he'd almost turned the role down. "I didn't think I could keep up with Ritter," he said. "That man was lightning." But ABC needed a replacement after the Ropers spin-off collapsed, and John Ritter personally called Knotts, begging him to take the part. "We'll figure it out together," Ritter promised. The first night Knotts walked onto stage 25, he nearly froze. The audience screamed when they saw him. The applause lasted almost 2 full minutes, long enough that the director had to stop the scene and reset. When they finally started, Knotts blanked on his first line. Ritter whispered it to him under his breath. "Mr. Furley, the floor's yours." He confessed later that every time he put on those glittering jumpsuits, he recited a mantra to calm himself. If they're laughing, they're not looking. The fear never went away, but it worked. Within weeks, ratings skyrocketed. Viewers adored his neurotic charm, unaware that behind the sequined confidence was a man fighting panic attacks before every taping. Fact 7. The secret war between ABC and the writer's room. By 1981, Three's Company was still a ratings monster, but behind the laughter, the writer's room had turned into a battlefield. And the actors were the ammunition. ABC executives wanted the show lighter, sexier, and faster. They wanted 3 laughs per page, and they didn't care how ridiculous the storylines became. The writers, led by Michael Ross, Don Nicole, and Bernie West, resisted. They wanted clever farce, not cheap innuendo. Every week became a tug of war. One of the most infamous fights happened during Season 6. The episode Jack Bears All originally featured a plot about Jack Tripper attending a cooking class. ABC demanded more spice. The writers refused, calling it soft-core nonsense. The studio won. The rewritten version included a half-undressed Jack covered in whipped cream, and when it aired, critics destroyed it. By then, tempers were boiling. ABC had started sending script consultants to sit inside the writer's room. Joyce DeWitt once walked in on a shouting match between the head writer and a network exec over the word bed. It was banned in dialogue for an entire season because it implied sex outside marriage. John Ritter hated it. He told TV Guide in 1983, "Comedy shouldn't come from censorship. It comes from panic, chaos, and truth." But the panic was real. Writers were working 14-hour days under fluorescent lights, cranking out 2 versions of every script, one for ABC, one for themselves. By Season 8, half the original writing staff had quit. The scripts got sillier, the chemistry strained, and the heart that made Three's Company magical started slipping away. Fact 8. The zoo scene that accidentally made history. There's one clip in the Three's Company opening credits that still makes fans pause. Janet feeding a goat at the zoo while a small blonde toddler toddles into the frame, chasing the animal. Most people never gave it a second thought. But that child changed television history. That little boy was Jason Ritter, John Ritter's real-life son, and his appearance wasn't planned, scripted, or even noticed until it was too late. The crew was filming the Season 6 title sequence at the Los Angeles Zoo. It was a long, chaotic shoot. 90-degree heat, restless animals, and a live audience of kids watching from the fences. John's wife, Nancy Morgan, had brought their son Jason to visit his dad. During a break, Jason wandered away from her and walked straight into the shot. When editors reviewed the footage later, they spotted him. The director, Bill Hoban, suggested reshooting the sequence, but Ritter refused. "Leave it," he said. "That's my kid." That's real. ABC reluctantly agreed, unaware they'd just captured a moment that would come full circle decades later. 20 years after that zoo day, Jason Ritter was cast as the lead in Joan of Arcadia, earning an Emmy nomination, his first big network role. During press interviews, reporters brought up that goat scene. Jason laughed and said, "I literally walked into my dad's show before I could talk." He called it his favorite accident. Fact 9. The finale that broke the cast apart. When Three's Company ended on September 18, 1984, the laughter on screen was forced. You can almost sense it if you re-watch closely. Behind those last scenes, the cast was fractured beyond repair. The finale was supposed to be a grand send-off. Instead, it became a funeral for everything that once made the show magical. The original script had been rewritten 5 times. ABC wanted a spin-off pilot buried inside the final episode, a setup for Three's a Crowd. But John Ritter hated the idea. He wanted a real goodbye for Jack, Janet, and the audience who'd followed them for 8 years. The network refused. During filming, Joyce DeWitt arrived to find her dressing room moved to another corridor, right next to the sound stage where the new cast of Three's a Crowd was rehearsing. It was a message. The old era was over. She later called that day the most humiliating moment of my career. The episode itself was a rush. Jack proposed to his girlfriend Vicky, Janet married her fiancé, and the apartment was cleared out, all within 20 minutes. Then came the final line. "Come and knock on our door anytime." It sounded like hope, but it was really heartbreak. After the taping, Ritter didn't join the wrap party. He quietly left through the back exit with his wife. DeWitt stayed until midnight, sitting alone on the empty set. Crew members said she whispered, "We started as 3, and we ended as none." The next morning, ABC ordered Three's a Crowd. The ratings collapsed within a year. The chemistry that once defined Three's Company never came back. Fact 10. Suzanne Somers' final goodbye and the hidden regret. In October 2023, the world lost Suzanne Somers, one day before her 77th birthday. The headlines called her a fitness icon, an author, a survivor. But behind the success, she carried one wound she never truly healed from: Three's Company. A few months before she passed, Somers sat down for what became her final televised interview. Her voice was softer now, but her memory was sharp. She talked about the old days. "I didn't walk away," she said quietly. "I was pushed." After being fired in 1981, she'd been unofficially blacklisted. Casting directors stopped calling. Sitcom producers wouldn't touch her. It took almost a decade for her to rebuild, selling workout videos from her garage before launching the Thigh Master and earning back millions. But the pain of that betrayal never left. What most people don't know is that she tried to reconcile with John Ritter years before his death. In 2003, her team contacted him through mutual friends, proposing a reunion special, the first time Jack and Chrissy would share the screen again. Ritter reportedly agreed to discuss it, even joking, "Tell her I still owe her rent." But before the meeting could happen, Ritter died suddenly of an aortic dissection. Somers later said, "That was the goodbye I never got to give." Her husband, Alan Hamill, said she kept a framed photo of the Three's Company trio beside her writing desk. When she died, the picture was still there. She once called the show the love affair that ended without closure. Decades later, the world realized she was right. And that kind of heartbreak doesn't fade. Behind the laughter, Three's Company was chaos disguised as comedy. Which of these secrets shocked you the most? And did it change how you see the show? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories Hollywood tried to hide.